Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the stream. And if I'm a little bit choppy, that is probably because I'm also recording locally, which should be fine. But it's just so you know. So today is a very special edition of the live stream because instead of just being by myself, I've got a guest with me, and it is a person that a lot of people on the iOS developer community know because he's been super active for the past couple of years. I think he's managed to put out new blog posts every week, which is kind of amazing. And he's also produced lots of other content. He's a regular speaker at conferences, and he's also an indie developer. So without further ado, here is Antoine. Hello, Antoine. How are you?
I'm doing great. How are you? Thanks for inviting me over.
Yeah. No worries. I've always thought about doing a collab, and since I've been using RocketSim for I don't know for how long, I thought it might be a good idea to bring you on and talk about it. So yeah, maybe we can start with where it all started from. So how did you come up with the idea of RocketSim in the first place?
Yeah, it's dating back to 2019, I think, maybe even longer ago. But I was working at WeTransfer, the file transfer company back in the days, and one of the things I had to test every time was like deep links, right? So we had different kinds of transfers with different kinds of files, and I had to test each app release that those transfers were downloading correctly and that all those files worked as expected and such. So what you do as a developer, you create an HTML file with an ordered list with HTML links in it, and it allows you to use universal links and open them in the simulator. And that worked for a while, but then I had to open that web page avenderly.com/deeplinks.html every time I was I was debugging, and it started to become a bit annoying. And I always dreamed of building Mac apps, but I never really did it. AppKit was kind of like daunting. But yeah, I figured let's just give it a go. It was like a hackathon Friday or something we had at WeTransfer, and I built that deep links manager kind of, which is still that is the oldest piece of code which is still in RocketSim, and that's where it started, and that's how it continued. The first version was just the status bar app. It didn't even have the side window that everybody recognizes nowadays. It quite evolved, so to say.
So I forgot who it was. I think it was Jordi who said, "Hey, you just have to start your project. You don't have to obsess over it." And I think he mentioned that one of his apps still has like a pretty random name. So is RocketSim? Does it also have a pretty random project name?
I know what you're talking about. I think his Susie app is still called Collective Example or something.
Yeah.
So if you take Jordi as a developer and me as a developer, we're like the far end of the scales. Super structured. Everything is named well, documented. Even though I'm working on the project myself all alone. And Jordi on the flip side is super great in quickly building stuff in a really high quality manner. And doesn't care about renaming the Xcode project file. So for me, obviously it's called RocketSim.xcode project. All perfect. All the details. Anyway, yeah.
Okay, and when you develop a new feature, will you also have your project board in GitHub, and then start a new branch, and everything is super amazingly set up, and you have all your commits are beautiful?
No, I'm quite a noob if it comes down to Git. I do create branches because I want to have an idea of comparing what I've changed in the branch before a release, so I can kind of like compare like, didn't I forget about the debug piece of code or something like that? No, so I don't do that. But what I do like to do, and it still helps me a ton as of today, is I create sample projects for each large feature. So the network monitor, for example, if I have to run the whole project every time to test out that feature, it adds up, right? It's slower. So what I create
Hmm.
like an example project that's super small. It's focused on just that feature, like a
Hmm.
and it directly works. It has a Mac app and an iOS app, and that allows me to quickly test network monitoring in an isolated manner. Plus, it forces me to work with dedicated SPM packages, which also has plenty of benefits that I don't think I have to explain in detail. So um, I guess there's a balance, but I do like to be really structured. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So I thought it might be fun to look at RocketSim and see what it can do. And to kick us off, I'm going to share my screen, and then let's see. I need to find my mouse. Here it is. Here we go. I noticed that the iOS simulator in 18.4 has a bunch of problems, and I don't know if I can replicate this in this sample app here, but let's see. So at one point, I was running one of our demo applications. So I was working on Firebase Data Connect, and the sample application for that is a movie application, and it shows those amazing pictures of AI-generated movie posters because we can't use the original ones for obvious reasons. So, and at one point, this stopped working, and I was like, "What is going on? Are these the wrong URLs? Is a project down, or whatever is happening?" And it turned out that it was something in a network stack. So whenever you would fetch something using URL session, it would, after a while, it would just stop, and I couldn't put my finger on it, right? So it seemed like, oh, this is happening at random. So to better understand this, I built this very simple application here, which literally just has a number of URLs and then a button, and then wherever you click on the button, it will try to fetch from that URL, right? So for example, let's try it out. So Google seems to work, GitHub works, Apple works, Stack Overflow also works. Reddit works, and for some reason, my own website doesn't work. But it's there. So let's try it out in Safari. See, it works, right? So and it's spelled correctly. Oh, and yours is there as well. So let's see what about yours.
I hope it's not down, because then I have to leave
Yeah.
this meeting right now.
Yeah. So,
I can
and
stay.
then I was like, okay, so let's see if I can find out what is going on. And I thought, okay, so RocketSim has this network monitor, right? So,
Yeah.
and now let's find RocketSim. So where is the RocketSim window? So
You got it
it
open? I
should,
don't see the status bar icon.
yeah, it should be
Oh, it's
there.
there. Yeah.
I saw it. I saw it a while ago.
So if you Command Tab and then back to the simulator, then it should pop up.
Nope. Okay.
Do you have
So
the
what
app icon visible?
what I usually do is I'll try to kill it. There it is. See? So I'll kill it.
Yeah, so what can happen is, so RocketSim has the side window, right? But if you have like an extra window open for the network monitor, it might not directly pop up with the simulator.
Yeah. So, interesting. Oh, maybe because I've got a separate simulator instance somewhere else. Okay, so that was another window. Maybe it got confused by that. Can that happen?
It could also be related to screen sharing, to be honest.
Yeah, so let's give it another try. So let me start this up again. And then let's see. No, it's not there.
Yeah. It's probably because you share your screen in this live stream. So you have a setting on Anna's window where you can hide screens during live streams.
Is there?
But-
Let me try it one more time, and then if this doesn't work, let's see if it works on your end.
yeah, or if you.
Oh, there you go.
Beautiful. Okay.
Okay.
Then I wonder what was going on, Peter.
Me too, but this is something that happens on a frequent basis for me.
Okay, well, let's fix that after this call.
Okay, so and let's see. Okay, so this is still failing. So now let's look at the network monitor, and where is it? So it's here, right? So we can go to the command tab, and then we can see the most recent request, which didn't work. And then let's click on the Open Network Monitor, and here we have the network monitor, so we can look at the request.
Hey, Peter,
and
do you know you can click on it in the side window, and it will deep link into the right request right away?
How?
Yeah.
Like so?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. So let's create a couple more requests so we can see how well this works, right? So let's take one that works. Oh
boy.
Beautiful.
Stress testing here.
So, all right. So what do you think is going on here? I mean, I have no idea, but what's your take?
Well, I know your website is built with Astro, so I could also imagine that it doesn't allow GET requests because probably the headers aren't set to be a web browser visit. That would be my guess. You could compare it to a summary of another website, right? So if you compare it,
let's use yours. So yours runs on. I think you use WordPress. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. So let's use yours.
Yeah, Franklin is in the chat. Hey, Franklin, he suggests to try out without the www.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Let's try that. Okay, good point, Franklin. So what I was really hoping for is that everything stops working, right? Because that is the bug. Oh, and I see why it's working. So we're using 18.3. Okay, so let's. Okay, so this works. So thanks, Franklin.
Cool. There you go.
But no, let's use the 18.4 simulator. So let's kill this first. Well,
yeah. So for those listening, right? If you use RocketSim and RocketSim isn't working out for you in the latest simulator or the latest macOS, please update in the Mac App Store. They changed quite a bit in the Bonjour settings, which broke RocketSim, but as of last week, it's solved. So,
yeah, is that the kind of time when you get really nervous and you think, oh, thank God I wasn't on vacation?
Yes, yeah. So RocketSim lives quite on the edge, right? Like I'm building features that nobody has built before. There is no documentation on many of the APIs I use. So when I see something breaking, I'm like, okay. So let's stay positive. We can probably fix it, but this could be the moment that I have to kill network monitoring for everybody and say like, sorry, no. But honestly, like there's so many ways out, and I'm living on the edge, but I have code laying around that goes even further, but I just didn't use it yet because it's not needed. So I think it's fine for now.
Okay, so this is now the 18.4 simulator. So I had the impression, so somebody said it breaks on the second launch. So let's try that.
I love how we're stress testing RocketSim right now,
Yeah. Oh, there you go. The network connection was lost.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other ones are still working.
Is this a simulator only thing or?
Yeah, it's a simulator only thing. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. So does it sort by date? So is the newest request on top?
Yeah.
Okay. So where is the one that said network
So
connection
in the
lost?
network monitor itself, in the window, it's all the way in the bottom. It feels
Oh,
like
okay.
it's like an iMessage chat, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
now you scroll to the bottom, so now it will stick to the bottom with new requests and move
Yeah.
with. Yeah.
Okay, so here it says it's an error domain CF network error, and whatever that means.
This is probably something you need to file a radar for, right? Like.
Yep. Yeah. Totally. But yeah, so it's definitely interesting to see that. So we can see the summary. We can see. Well, let's take one that did work. So we can see the requests. It was an empty request because it didn't pass anything. And then we can see the response. So for google.com, it will return the entire content of the web page.
Yeah.
We can see the headers.
Yeah, and the response would be JSON for regular app requests, right? Which is super convenient if you're building apps.
Yep. And then here we see, oh, this is really great. So, and this actually reminds me of how the network monitor came to be, right? Because it looks very, very similar to this network monitoring thing that Alex Gravenuk, I think, built. And so maybe you can talk a little bit about what you did there.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can actually see it in the footer of the network monitor window. RocketSim Connect is powered by Pulse.
Yep.
It's an open source library. And back in the days when I wanted to start building this, I already knew how to build it, like using Bonjour, local server connection. Pretty straightforward. For me, it started, I was in the simulator. So I could basically set up a connection with RocketSim and the simulator, right? So that was the starting point. And then I found out about Pulse, and it was open sourced, and the license was kind of allowing me to use it. But still, I was like, okay, this is like quite a big step. So I contacted Alex personally and asked him like, hey, what would you think if I start using it inside RocketSim? And we agreed upon mentioning it like I do in the bottom of the window. I also mention it on the website and so on. To really provide the credits. And to kind of like see if I can help him grow as well in that regard, because the network monitor works great and it has a lot of features, but if you really want to grow further or do mocking or those kind of things, then you really need Pulse Pro, which is the Mac app that Alex built. So hopefully, this is kind of like an entry point for other developers to step up their game and check out his Mac app as well.
Yeah, I think it's a great story. So, basically, putting together stuff that already exists and, implementing something that's much more powerful. And also, I like how this is this really nice collaboration where you push traffic towards his product. So, yeah, this seems really nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, and this is also very cool. So, showing the curl command. So this is something that we also do in some of our SDKs at Firebase. So, for example, if people use the Vertex AI in Firebase SDK to talk to Gemini, you can turn on debug mode, and then we will log out your requests. And there's also going to be the curl command that you can use. So if you want to try the call yourself on the command line, you can just grab the curl and run it from the terminal, which is super convenient. So that is great. Awesome. So I've got one more question around the network monitor, and let's see if we can go to this other app. So this is this knowledge base application that I've been working on, and it uses Firestore. So Firestore does it uses gRPC to communicate with the backend. I'm not entirely sure if you can intercept that in the network monitor. Do you know?
So the monitoring I'm currently doing is based on Switzerland URL session.
Okay.
So as long as there is a delegate callback that I could potentially hook into, it is possible for me to catch those requests.
Yeah, I
But
think that is probably, I don't know how gRPC works under the hood if they use URL session. I think probably not, because I was not able to see it in the network monitor, right? So for
is it like a
example,
WebSocket? Do you know that?
I think it might be WebSockets, but so I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I saw something where you could extend Pulse or even RocketSim and hook in your own custom protocol um, parser to parse the traffic that's going on, and then represent this in the in a human readable way. Is that something that's possible?
Not with RocketSim right now. I have plans to support something like that even further. And this is maybe a nice segue in some of the ideas that I have, right?
Mm-hmm.
RocketSim Connect is really the foundation right now, which mostly makes network monitoring possible. But it was also for me a way to look into, are users even willing to connect a SDK that I ship with the app into their code base, right?
Mm-hmm.
It felt like a major step to me.
Yep.
But it quickly turned out that everybody felt okay with it. And the setup is basically, you have to copy a piece of code and put that into your code with an compound if debug around it. So it never ships with your release builds. It's really just for debugging, right? And for me, it was like to prove, is this something I can do or not? And now that I can do that, I can also build features. Like, for example, I want to create some kind of like property wrapper, kind of like a state in SwiftUI, but then it
Mm-hmm.
will link up a control in RocketSim.
Okay.
So what you could do is potentially make a property in SwiftUI view interactive with RocketSim, and that
Mm.
potentially allows you to change the color of a view while you're live in the simulator, or change the slider value or something, like different kinds of UI components, so to say, that can connect with your Swift UI view. This is just an idea, right? And
That is totally wild. Do you know Pony Debugger?
no, maybe
So
I see it
it's
now, yeah.
I'm dating myself here. So, let me bring this up and then share it on screen. So Pony Debugger is
Oh, that's
something
really old.
that it is really old. And hello, can I scroll? Yes, I can. So it was built by the folks at Square, and you can see the latest release is 2014, so it's really old. But the idea is, and you can see this from the
Hmm.
screenshot, so they have this, they plug into Chrome, right? So they
Yeah.
use Chrome DevTools to take away some of the heavy lifting you have to implement if you want to implement a debugger. And so for example, what you could do is there is a core data browser, so you can inspect your core data
Yeah.
tables. There is a view hierarchy debugging thing where, do you see this thing here where you've got the outline of your views and it
Yeah.
looks like you're in the web browser, and you
So
can go and select stuff and change things on the fly, which works because it's UI kit.
that's what I mean. Yeah. There's a reason it's not been updated for a while. Like
Yeah.
the Pony Sim, yeah, great idea. Hidde. Love the bottle. Shout out. No, but the Pony debugger is great, right? But you need to take it back to 2025. And in 2025, yes, we can create a Swift data, core data debugger. It's on the roadmap for sure. I want to build that, but it's a lot of work. There's
Mhm.
the UI hierarchy. The thing is with Swift UI, we instruct how we want the view to look, but there's no way to prevent it from generating a flattened image of your view, which also means that you won't always have the rectangles and the information that we used to have a UI kit that
Yep.
all those kind of tools could use to, create awesome UI debugging tools. And this is also why I kind of like why I'm thinking about the route of directly interacting with your code with
Hmm.
kind of like a RocketSim interactive component property wrapper. I'm not sure about it yet, but because that
Yeah.
will always work no matter what Apple will
Yeah.
do with the output of the view. I can't simply rely on what they often use the accessibility elements output, those tools.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been diving a lot into this because if I can do something with the UI elements, that would open up so many ideas that I have.
Oh, yeah.
The rulers that I have, they could stick to your elements on screen, for example. All those kind of.
Yeah. So speaking about the rulers, so let's see some of the features. So maybe you can share your screen and then give us a quick rundown of the cool features of RocketSim and maybe some of the stuff that is fairly new and that you're excited about.
Absolutely.
And also, I need to bring on your screen. Let's see. I think it's this one.
Yep. Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah, so RocketSim has a lot of features. I think the network monitoring, we've covered quite a bit now. To stick a bit in that corner, this is the network speed control. I won't use it right now, but what it will do is it will slow down just the simulator via network extension. I'm not using it now because I don't want to, do anything with networking right now while I'm in this live stream. But you can basically see it as the network link conditioner, but it won't slow down your Mac. So you can still use ChatGPT. You can still go to Stack Overflow while you're debugging your app on slow.
Very convenient, yeah.
Very, very convenient. Yeah, this is one of the latest features that I built.
Nice.
Rulers, they are here. This is the kind of the design comparison tab, I like to call it. It has slow animations. As you can see here, so if you're building a slow animation, you can kind of like debug that nicely. It has a grid overlay. Right now it's set to I think 8 pixels per square or something like that.
Does it adjust to the size of the simulator? So if you press command 1, 2, 3, does it automatically adjust?
Live test. Bloop.
Ooh. Oh, okay.
Yeah. That was fun to build. This one is also nice. I need to detect all these things, right? So RocketSim is kind of like, it seems like it's really connected to the simulator, but in fact it's not, right? So I'm constantly monitoring the simulator window to make sure this all works as expected.
How do you handle, when you have multiple simulator windows running?
Yeah, so I know which window is front and foremost. That is not easy, and that's also that's super annoying. But I have to ask for screen recording permissions just to make this feature work. The title iPhone 16 Pro, you can only read that out if you have screen recording permissions. If not, you will basically just get simulator, and many of the simulators have the same screen dimensions. So I couldn't really do anything else than asking for screen recording permissions. Which is also why you see those annoying pop-ups. RocketSim is using your screen and those kind of things. Yeah, I'm not doing scary things, trust me. It's just to make sure the right simulator shows up. But I do smart things right now. I only have one simulator, so I don't have to do screen recording stuff. I don't even do it, by the way. It's just you use the CG window API, and that under the hood uses screen recording permissions. Either way, rulers. Here we go. Yeah, the rulers are
nice. Yeah, that's really cool.
These basically work with the dimensions of your screen, and what you can do is you can put them and stick them where you want, and then you can hold Shift, which shows the spacing between those rulers, which is pretty neat. But yeah, like I said, you can see that I'm now really trying my best to put it on the top of that white thingy there. If I knew the dimensions of that view, I could basically stick it right there.
So do you do edge detection to do that? So so let's imagine that I'm building a game and I'm not using any of the native components. Will you still be able to detect the edge?
No, I'm currently not able to detect the edge, but I want that, right? It's a feature I could not have built yet because I can't read out the view hierarchy as of today.
But can you read the contents of the screen as pixels?
I could, yeah. So I could create a screenshot right now and do some kind of yeah, fancy stuff there. But yeah, you can imagine it's not super performant, and I
Yep.
don't know. The way I approach features is that the network monitor as well. I had that ID for 3 years, but there wasn't like a good way to build it up until like half a year ago, and then I directly started building it. So I'm kind of like waiting for the right moment to build the right features in a way. That makes sense. Yeah. Before I forgot, there is something that I'm working on, and it's in debug mode. So you have
Okay.
this.
So
You have
now we
this
get
search
to
view.
see a sneak preview.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So
Nice.
there's a menu here that only I have. Sorry for that. Um, but this is so. What's the search field, right? So I click the send sample search query here, and what you can see is that it types for me.
Ooh, nice.
I didn't do anything, right?
Yep.
And this is a proof of concept. And what I am planning on working on is just like you have deep links. So these are deep links. I can click a deep link and it will open the app. There's push notifications. So this is a quick walkthrough through those actions. There you go. What I'm thinking about is adding another type of action, which will be keyboard input. So what I did at WeTransfer, I often had to log in to certain accounts, username, password, and I had to type that in myself.
Yep.
My idea is to have it's almost like rebuilding shortcuts, but then for the simulator. I need to stop myself from going too extreme, but what I would love to do is, allow you as a developer to go wild and kind of like program kind of actions, like type Peter Friese at gmail.com, I'm not sure, and then press tab and then type in the password and then tap and then press enter as an action.
Yeah.
Because
that
if
would be so convenient. I mean, like I have to type in username and password all of the time. The thing that I'm wondering about is, will this work for secure fields though?
That is my challenge. But the way this feature works, so the simulator, I'll give you a little bit of background about the simulator. So what you see here is, it looks like one window, but in fact, there's a hidden overlay on top of this window. And when I click on the screen here, I don't click on the simulator. I click on that hidden overlay window. That receives that mouse click and it sends it forward to another process on your Mac. And it tells like, hey, there was a mouse click on my hidden window and you need to handle it for me on these coordinates. So why I'm telling this, input fields work the same. I'm not actually typing in that secure text field. I'm basically just sending the process. The user typed in PETER space FRE.
Yeah.
I'm basically
So
sending
that process that you mentioned, so this kind of invisible window on top of the simulator, is that part of the simulator process, or is that something that you run?
These two parts are part of the simulator, and I found a way to mimic that hidden overlay and act as the sender of those events. Yeah, and
that is wild.
This is what I mean about living on the edge, right? And this is also why it's still in the debug mode, because I'm still not convinced. Like, if I start to build this, if I let developers depend on it, and especially, WWDC is some kind of like marker for me, because if WWDC brings a whole new simulator and it no longer works, then I'm done. But if it still works after WWDC, I know, okay, if I build it now, it at least works for, well, most likely a year.
Yep.
So I'll just go for it.
Yeah. Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's really wild.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. It's pretty extreme, and this is like the piece of code that I found to make this work also gave me insights into how the recorder works. So RocketSim offers screenshots with bezels, right? So I can create a screenshot here, and this now created the screenshot with device bezels on it. but it also comes with a recorder, and the recording quality is based for regular usage, right? Like it's okay in terms of quality, but it's not high frame rate.
Mm.
It's quite terrible. And I also found a way to talk directly with the the pixel buffer of that process. So I have a proof of concept as well, where I can create 120 hertz frame rate, screen rate
Wow.
of the simulator.
So that should be good enough to capture game sessions.
Exactly. Yeah, that would be quite game changing. But what I did,
No pun
so
intended.
oh yeah, no, that was not on purpose. Um, but what I do, you can see here. This is the roadmap of RocketSim, and it's on purpose not in order, because if you always put the same feature on the top, it will always get the most votes. And I
Yeah.
want it to be real. So here you can see all those the IDs that I mentioned, and what I'm basically doing is I look at those features and I pick the ones that have the most votes.
Hmm.
And based on that, I will work on those features. You can here see the username password quick action that I just spoke about.
Yeah.
But you can also see that people want a Swift data,
Mm.
editor. Um, yeah, so I have those IDs, but what I was talking about, the 120 FPS videos, it should be somewhere here as well. Didn't get as many votes, so I didn't build that yet. So that's kind of like the
Mm.
story I wanted to share here. Yeah.
Okay. So do you just look at the list and then you go through and say, okay, so this has, by sort of order, this is the most popular feature request, and then you'll start thinking more about this, or do you
Yeah.
have some sort of dashboard for yourself where you can go in and it says,
Yeah.
Antoine, if you have 3 hours left of time, here is what you need to work on.
Yeah, it's a case by case thing, right? I also had a feature request to, um, so you can simulate locations in
Hmm.
RocketSim, and most of the time it's based on just locations by name. But then I also got a request that they wanted to use custom GPS locations, and
Yep.
that was kind of like a 3 hour job for me, and I had 3 hours, so I built that right away, even though it
Hmm.
didn't get the most votes.
Yeah.
But in the roadmap, there's also features that I can basically build already. It might take me a week, but I can for sure build it. But I can see already that it's not the most requested feature. So I kind of
Mm.
like force myself to not work on it, even though I like building it, because it
Mm.
doesn't have the biggest impact. And
Yeah.
the network monitor had like almost 300 votes for 2
Yeah.
years, which was by far the highest. So I knew like the moment I could build that, okay, this is going to be game changing. And I don't have the sales graph ready here, but I can directly see a relationship with the release of the network monitor and the
Mm.
sales going up. And
Yeah.
that's the effect of building what your users want.
Yeah. Do you also have analytics in the tool to tell you, hey, this is the feature that most people use, or do you just not care about?
Yeah, I have that, and I kind of I wanted to know like what is the key action that converts users to RocketSim Pro, right? The free
Hmm.
version is it offers you access to pretty much all the features, but in a limited manner. And
Mm.
the Pro feature gives you unlimited access, obviously. The thing is, there are over 30 features already, and every developer has their favorite. I have stories for every single feature where somebody was like, I can't live without the recording feature anymore. And then it's
Yeah.
you, Peter, I can't live without the network monitor anymore. And then I had those design focused developers. I
Or
can't
there's
live
people
without the
like Hidde
comparison
who
tool anymore.
says, I can't ever work without RocketSim in total.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I mean, right? So this is difficult to really pinpoint. So I do have those the analytics because I'm really addicted to data and
Yeah.
in a privacy safe manner, right? Like it's all anonymous, but I really want to optimize the products that I build. And yeah, there's just not one key popular action. Even the network monitor, I can't say that it's the most popular feature because it's
Mm.
simply, like there's just different cohorts.
Yeah, so if I had to venture a guess, I would assume that taking screenshots, bezeled screenshots and bezeled recordings would be very popular because that is probably something that many of us need to do, right? But maybe
Yeah.
I'm also biased, right? So I use that mostly when preparing talks and I need a screenshot of something. And
Yeah.
to be honest, that
Yeah.
was also the reason why so I thought I was going to be smart and cancel my subscription before the year turned around. And then, the year turned around and RocketSim told me, hey, you can renew your subscription, but it's going to be more expensive. And I was like, oh, dang, I completely shot myself into the foot.
Yeah.
And then I had to make screenshots. I'm like, well, there is no way how I can, have the watermark on it. So I renewed my subscription, and now I can enjoy amazing screenshots again. Because it's so convenient, right? So you could do a screenshot and then pull it into one of the third-party tools, like I forgot the name, but there are so many of them, right? And with this one, it's just like one shop, right? One button press, and there you go.
Yeah, and so this is also a great tip for those having RocketSim Pro right now. There are people that still pay $10 a year because they signed up in 2019 and never stopped renewing. There's one thing that I love doing is like those that support me early on will just get and keep the price forever, right? So I do every now and then increase the price because the offering is just so much bigger than it used to be. But I never increase the price for existing subscribers because I want to thank them for being loyal. So I should have told you before, Peter. Sorry for that. Yeah, so I think that is good to know if you're currently a subscriber. But yeah, it's funny, the recording feature. I had a discussion with Jordi. Jordi Brown is a good friend of mine, and every now and then I visit their office in Amsterdam. And I was like, "Yeah, you know what? I'm going to work on Jordi. So the recording feature, I kind of want to make the next step of it, right? So to allow you to have gradient backgrounds and um, to kind of like add text to it and go quite extreme. And then Jordi told me, and he was right in a way that this is not what RocketSim is about. You're going far away from the developer tool in a way, right? And it hit me that I had many of those discussions because I have 30 features, and there's just a certain idea people have about RocketSim that RocketSim is the screenshot capture tool, so it shouldn't do build insights. But then I have developers that have the build insights, and they're like, "Wow, no, RocketSim is for build insights. It shouldn't do screenshots." And I'm constantly balancing there, where I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh man, it would be amazing if I can create those screenshots with gradient backgrounds and really level it up because I know people use it, and it's also the K factor. Right? Like it's shareability. If every
Yeah.
user
Oh,
brings to
yeah.
another user,
Totally.
your growth
Yeah.
will go exponentially. And I feel like if I can level up that recording part, I'll level up my K factor. If that makes sense.
So here's it has a suggestion to call it Rocket Suite.
It's already the case. Yeah. No, but in terms of features, what I'm working on, because right now we've just seen the App Store version right here, but the thing that grows the most lately is our Teams offering. So that this is the online Teams dashboard that comes with RocketSim. And for those that don't know, last November, two of my friends joined me, and we started a new venture to level up RocketSim B2B. And one of them is a front end engineer, and the other one is really highly focused on sales and outreach, inbound sales, and those kind of things. But yeah, this is the result of that collaboration and what it basically is. So inside RocketSim, you might have seen this overview. So this shows for Stock Analyzer. It's one of my test apps. It shows the average build duration over time. And if you have a team license, RocketSim will sync the build duration for each member in your team to our backend, and we will show it in a nice overview. So I'm the only developer on Stock Analyzer, so the build information isn't that interesting here, but it does show you what it can do. And in this case, maybe I should show RocketSim instead. So here you can
Ooh.
see the build data over time, how it slowed down. I have
Yeah,
a
what
reason for
happened
that.
there?
And it's funny, before we went live, I told Peter, like, oh, this is actually an insight for me. I need to turn something off to make my builds fast again. But yeah, you can see per Xcode version, per macOS version, per machine. And this is especially interesting if you're working in a team, because it could be that your newest developer has the newest MacBook, and it shows that your project actually builds like 50% faster. And this could be actually data driven decision to tell your manager that you need the latest MacBook.
Yeah.
Because it will
So
twice as fast.
buy a RocketSim license to get a nicer machine.
That is, yeah, that's the new slogan. Thank you, Peter. That's a great one.
I'll
But yeah,
charge you for it.
yeah, but what we're actually working on, right? So this is one of the insights that we have. Your whole team uses Xcode 16.2. In this case, I'm the only one on the team, so consistency is always there. But it could also be that if you have a team of 20 and one person still develops with Xcode 16.1, you might want to know that, because it could result in a lower productivity because the builds aren't as optimized or anything like that, right? So these kind of insights are aimed to increase the productivity of teams as a whole. And that is something we highly focus on right now, as we just see a lot of interest in these features over the last few months.
So will it automatically capture all those stats for every single build? So let's say if I create like a random new project, will it capture this automatically?
Yeah, the last thing you want is that your team manager is in this dashboard and it sees like, hey, oh, Antoine is working on stock analyzer.
Yeah.
He should work on WeTransfer. What's going on? Yeah, so no, that won't happen. So what you basically can do, you have these projects in the overview, and you can add a new project, and you can
Okay.
basically fill in anything here. If your team manager knows, like, Peter new app .isco project is a thing, it might eventually show up in the build insights, but RocketSim won't sync anything until it finds out the project name is configured, right? So
Okay.
we ask the backend what are the project names that we should sync for, and those will be synced to the dashboard. So I'm pretty sure your hidden side projects are safe.
Okay, but if my manager was able to guess my hidden project's name, like random iCloud sync project, then they would be able to see it.
Yeah, then it could, in theory, work like that. Yeah. Those are discussions we have, right? It's a typical optimization step that you want or will make. We could also add a checkbox locally, never sync this, but that will also give the ID that if you don't turn this checkbox off, it will always sync all your builds, and that is not the case. So yeah, that's kind of like an UX kind of discussion, I want to say.
That's pretty cool. I love that. Can I export the data, for example, to a CSV file or PDF or whatever?
Yeah, that's what developers ask me, right? Like, they want to use this data and go further. Yeah, so we have a few ideas, right? So the data is relatively easily exportable for me in terms of coding wise. The step I want to take first is to create a Slack integration and an email integration where you will get heads up like, hey, the trend is going up or the trend is going down. Kind of like, I can give you all the data to build your own tools, but wouldn't it be nicer if we build what you need?
Yeah,
right. So
absolutely.
I always ask those developers, like, okay, but why do you want the raw data? What do you want to build with it?
Yep.
Because most likely the answer to that question is something other developers want as well. And I'd much rather, give myself the time to build that for them, and at the same time serve all those other developers, rather than giving them access to plain data. So it's definitely in our roadmap, in our set of ideas. But like I said, I think the Slack integration, the email heads up, having more insights, but also this is also a nice insight in what we will build. we have access to your build logs, right? It's the raw data in the derived data folder. Nothing sensitive there. But what we can do is we can find like circular dependencies. Is a really common example for slowing down builds. We can detect those, and we can offer that as an insight. So we can show an error like, hey, last week you introduced a new circular dependency, and that's what's causing this build times to go down or go up, right? So that is really where we want to be at, right? Like we don't only want to show you the data, we also want to really give you actionable insights, and that that will immediately level up the added value for RocketSim so much.
I mean, that opens up the door to this entire discussion around dependency graphs and stuff like that. Is that something that people have asked for, and is it something that you would entertain, generally? I mean, I know that you look at the numbers and what people request, but is it something that you personally would find useful?
So there's things people can think of requesting, and there's things that people don't know they need.
Yeah.
And this is the latter. And I've seen conference talks and the responses of it, right? So the conference talks about SPM or modular projects, all those kind of things, and there's always a lot of questions about it after such talk. The Q&A is always packed, and there are definitely a lot of dev tools out there on GitHub as well to show you these insights, and all those things together just show me like, okay, there is a need for it. But what I am 100% sure about is if you get the insight of RocketSim that your builds are suddenly going up to 1 minute, you will be willing to get that back down to 30 seconds if you have a way to do it.
Yeah.
And my time at WeTransfer, we started the project freshly and new. It was blazing fast. But as you know, over the years, it slowly becomes slower and slower. And if you don't have the insights to notice that, you suddenly have a project that builds like 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes every time you do a build. And I think we all recognize, okay, this sprint, I really need to focus on optimizing our build because it's now so slow, it slows us down too much. And then you fix it, you make it fast. And then 2 months later, you need to revisit it again, right? So I kind of like want to be that monitor that is your buddy that will tell you right away when something happens, and also gives you the insight how to solve it so you can move on. And I mean, if I can make the whole team like 50% faster, that's a really easy sell, right? So product-wise, for us as RocketSim, it's a no-brainer too.
Do you have? So I know that it was an April Fool's, but specifically those insights where you have data, you have the logs. The obvious question is, have you thought about using AI to do analytics or analyses and figure out, okay, so something is going on here. Let's try to figure out if an LLM is able to say, well, this might be the reason, and you might want to look into, doing this or that to resolve the problem.
I decided to explain it simple with a dependency example, but obviously, if AI can do the analysis of the build logs, that would be quite a game changer. And this is also often a moment where I consider open source. If I can make this part open source, what will it do, right? Like on one hand, I give away the code that most likely will be super valuable to RocketSim. On the other hand, it allows many developers to jump in and make the analysis of build logs more optimized for edge cases that I can't foresee. Because I only have so many projects on my machine to test it with. Right. So that is always the juggle in a way, right? But it's the benefit. I have developers as my audience. I can ask developers to help me build RocketSim even better. And I know there's passion, and I know there's people willing to do it. So I'm juggling with that idea. Will it bite me back, for example, right? Like, will I lose customers over it because they just build their own tooling with it?
That's always such an interesting question, right? And
Mhm.
specifically with all the vibe coding at the moment, where people seem to be able to build like lots of stuff, just by prompting a model. You see
Yeah.
lots of people saying, we can get rid of this or that subscription because we can now build this tool ourselves. And then you
Yeah.
think to yourself, well, that's what you think, but there is so much more to a tool than just prompting it and having essentially a prototype, right? So
Yeah.
you need to make sure it runs, it scales, it can handle all the edge cases and stuff like that. So even though, I mean, if you'd open source parts of RocketSim, I think some people might get ideas and try to build their own version of it, but they won't be able to sustain that, right? That is
No.
what I think.
Yeah, the added value will be higher than the lost in value in a way, and yeah, it's just it's really a decision that you need to make. There's also convenience. Like out of the 100 developers, probably 80 or 90 will just install RocketSim and pay for it because they feel like it's totally worth it, and then the other 10
Yeah.
might build their own tool. Yeah, I have to think about it. There's also something with open source that you can't work like I do right now. I'm certainly not the solo developer anymore. I need to have change logs and proper deploys and those
Yep.
kind of things. Yeah, you need to maintain stuff, right? So there's more to it, but yeah, it's just that's also the nice thing about this live stream, right? Like it's speaking my thought process, and this is another one of those.
Yeah. So looking at the live stream, we had a question come in, and here somebody asked, are you planning to add any accessibility related feature to RocketSim, like dynamic type, contrast, etc., etc.?
Yeah, so let me share my screen again. I'm still doing it, by the way, so if you can bring it up, people.
I'll just bring it back. Let me see. Is this? No, that's mine.
Oh,
this one.
Yeah, there you go. So let me move the window because that's the infinite loop we don't like. There we go. So there are still, I have 30 plus features, as I told you. So we didn't cover these. All you can see here, for example. I think locale is something with accessibility too, right? So you can switch locales here rapidly without simulator. That being said, we have this accessibility window already. So Lior, this might be what you need. These are similar to the environment toggles inside Xcode. The big difference is that these will always follow your simulator. You don't have to jump back and forth with Xcode. And you can change the dynamic type right away, as you can see here. You can change the inverted colors. Honestly, my app is kind of accessible, but not the best example for this demo. I would say. So let's look at the settings screen, for example. You can use all these toggles to to kind of test that out, and that is already one step into the world of accessibility, so to say. I would love to do more, and it's also on the roadmap, and it's also well voted. Showing something like accessibility overlays, voiceover support, kind of like like the extra step, because accessibility becomes super important right now. Now that the law in Europe is there, at least, it's, don't get me wrong, it's already important, but I feel like more teams now really have to do something with it, while they would normally lower the priority on it. So yeah, there's definitely ideas there, but it's also one of those features that I want to build it, but there should also be a way for me to build it in a sustainable way that I can maintain it well. And right now, this is what I have, and there's not really an open door as of now that I can go further. So, yeah.
Very cool. Somewhat related, is there also a toggle to turn on and off dark mode?
Yeah, here it is.
Yeah, perfect.
Nice. Which in a way, like you can do that with the Command Shift A.
I know.
But yeah,
there were versions of the simulator where it didn't seem to work, or where they shifted around the
the
hotkey.
It's often used, by the way, this toggle. I'm always surprised. I can see it quite a bit used, so
Yeah.
there's a need for it. Oh, by the way, if you don't like this window, here are some options that you can use. And this I like as well. I had fun building it. So now it's kind of hidden here. You see that?
Yeah, I like that. That is
And then
so
you can bring it
cool.
back. Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think that
because
is
you can.
probably one of my favorite not features but gimmicks in RocketSim. You know, it's so nicely thought out.
Yeah, yeah. And it reminds me of I spoke at iOS Conf in Singapore, and
Mhm.
I had a discussion about RocketSim with one of the speakers there, and he told me you need to build more animation. So he also gave me a proof of concept. You see that window, which
Yeah.
kind of like follows the simulator, but it moves a little slower and animates out. He built that for me. So on my flight back from Singapore to Amsterdam, I built that into RocketSim, and it felt so much nicer after that.
Oh
It's
yeah,
those
absolutely.
little touches, right? That really make.
Because I mean, would it even be possible to have it locked to the window and keep really locked tight to the window and not like
No,
move away at all?
yeah,
No, right?
I had that, and I have designs laying around for that because it feels even more connected to the site to the simulator. And I had like an idea where you would kind of like have a square here, and
Mm.
if you minimize it, it would kind of like almost like Winamp, those
Hmm.
media players where you the alien one where you can hide the side panels
Yeah.
behind the player. Those kind of ideas I had, but the window update notification of the position, that's why it's a little behind. It's
Yeah.
just not
Yeah.
fast enough to really make that work.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was another feature that I was curious about. So Hidden mentioned that there is a user defaults editor. Can you show that?
Yes, that's a good one. It's right here. So let me open up Stock Analyzer again and the earnings notifications page. So if I open the user defaults, you can see that there's several p-lists here. Those are
Hmm.
basically all the preferences that exist in your project. I'm using Revenue Cat here. Shout out to Revenue Cat, love it. And that's why that plist is there. But there's also the standard plist. And once you open that, you have this real-time user defaults editor. And what I mean with real-time is if I change this toggle, you can also see it updating here in the editor. And this is a great way to monitor changes in your user defaults editor. But you
Hmm.
can also use it the other way around. So imagine you have a lot of debug toggles hidden in your app. You can basically use this as your debug view, so to say. So
Hmm.
I can change this toggle here, and you can see that it updates
Yeah.
in the app as well. So yeah, this I've had responses from developers that said like only the user defaults editor on its own already pays back the RocketSim Pro subscription. So yeah.
Nice. Love it. Um, so Hidden had a comment about the tab. I think needs to use white glyph instead of a red sock rocket on a red button though.
Yeah. Hit is one of my buddies as well. He's with UD in the office in Amsterdam, and whenever I need some design feedback, Hit is my man.
Yeah,
Um,
he's not shy.
no, he's not shy to share those, especially in a live stream where there's a lot of pressure to make that happen. No, yeah, no, but highly appreciated though. I love those discussions and feedback in general, right? Like it's the best that can happen, and there's people that don't want to do conference talks, for example, because they're afraid of the feedback that could occur. But
Mm.
to me, that's the best thing that can happen because it's an opportunity to improve, right? So it's
Oh
the
yeah.
same with app development. If anybody sees anything that I can improve, do let me know.
I was about to say these are nice closing words, but before we wrap it up, is there anything in RocketSim that you didn't show in this live stream that you're super excited about and that you absolutely want to show and make sure that people have seen it?
Yeah, I think there are actually a lot of things that I didn't show. So there's a magnifier, so to pick a color and you can copy it as code, but I won't show that. That's the homework. But this is a pretty nice feature. You might remember the Flawless app. It used to be there, and then it got bought by Abstract. I'm not sure if anybody remembers Abstract, but I'm not sure if it's still alive. But Flawless app is not. And I spoke with a developer from Flawless, and I asked him like, "Hey, I missed Flawless, so can I build this feature? I want it." So what it does, I selected the screenshot here, and it puts it as an overlay. So what you can do is you can compare your implementation with a design delivery, right? And this is the opacity overlay, but you can also do the slider overlay. So you can basically see the differences. And the advanced toggle allows you to zoom in the image, if you will, to position it like you want.
So I think I've seen a bunch of screenshots where people want to show off how amazing their app looks in dark mode, and this presentation here is a typical presentation. Can you take a screenshot of this, or does that not work?
So like this, you mean?
No. I mean, I know that this works, or hopefully works, but if you want to take a bezeled screenshot using RocketSim.
Yeah, I see what you mean. By the way, I need a reset button. I'm you see what I mean? And now I need to bring this back.
Yeah.
Manually. Yeah. So you would want to have a screenshot of this, but if you now create a screenshot here, it will just create a screenshot of the underlying part, not of this. You would almost want to do what I do now with space, but then just for the simulator. Long answer short, no, you can't. I did have a discussion with, I believe it was the Conto team, if I recall correctly, because creating a screenshot is one thing, but you can take it one step further. So I have the overlay and I have the screenshot underneath, so you can create a diff of the changes. And if you have that, you can show what is exactly off, and that allows both the developers to go really pixel perfect, as well as designers to have an idea of like, hey, this is still off. What do you want me to do here?
Or similar to what you did with the network monitor, you could just allow people to configure a third-party tool like Kaleidoscope, for example, and then send those screenshots over to Kaleidoscope, and it can do the thing.
Interesting. I am in touch with Kaleidoscope people, so that would be a nice collab. It's a great example as well of something that isn't just a niche, too much a niche for me to really focus on. Peter, you know what I'm doing. I also build courses and articles and all those kind of things. I need to pick my battles, right? And this is a typical one where I would make a few developers happy, but it won't make a difference in terms of the return of investment. So it's there. I invite everyone to go to the RocketSim app repository on GitHub. As you can see, I have 140 issues, close to 140 issues. And these are all IDs. The large bugs are solved, but so many feature requests, so many IDs that aren't even on the roadmap, right? So I can hire 20 developers and be busy for a year. I just try to pick my battles and make the features that have the highest impact.
Or you could hire an AI coder and offset the work a little bit by that way.
But then you come down to the point where I don't even know what I'm doing, let alone AI. There is no documentation of stuff that I do. So I can use AI to optimize my code and write a few views based on my prompts. But the many of the features, and that's also what I like, require me to be some kind of like detective to go through all the code.
I know what you mean. So just the other week, as I was preparing for my talk at Swift Heroes, I had this idea of implementing something that allows me to inspect the Swift UI environment. And you can go in and say, okay, give me all the known key paths, right? That is easy. But as you know, you can put anything into the environment, and I wanted to inspect anything that's in there. And essentially, so if you go into the debugger, the environment looks like a plist, but it's a dictionary, right? But it's that the interface is private, and you can't you can't just go and say, give me the thing.
Yeah.
So I investigated several approaches to hack my way into it, and none of them worked. And the interesting thing is, so I used some of that I tried to do manually. Some of that I tried to use an AI for. But because this is such a niche topic, there is almost no knowledge about it out there. So AI is horribly bad at solving this problem. It can come up with some ideas, but it will always fall on its face.
But this part I love of RocketSim, because I can spend a whole day without a result, and then the next day I do it again. But then on day 3, I find the answer, and it feels like winning the World Cup or something like. And I post a video on Twitter, and it goes viral, right? Like, because you've built something that nobody even thought was possible, right? So, and this is a perfect example that you're sharing. If you find out, I would love to know, by the way, because this could also be a way for me to hook into SwiftUI without, having to offer some kind of RocketSim API to a menu.
Yeah. I think so. What I've found is that you can use dump to get the environment and basically get a string representation of it, but there is a lot of stuff that you don't need, so you have to filter it out, and then you also only get what dump tells you. So sometimes there'll be stuff that you're really interested in, and it just won't tell you. But it might be the 80% solution that gets you to the point that you need, right? So maybe that is good enough.
Yeah. So to give you some homework for the weekend. Xcode previews work under the hood with a simulator, right? And all the things you can do with previews somehow needs to be possible for any app, as long as you know which APIs they use. Inside the Xcode app, there are many executables, including what you might know is SimCTL. There are many others as well. I think A-Tool is another well-known one. There's some kind of like a XE assets reader. I'm not sure, but there is a way potentially to find one of those executables and find a way to communicate with that, with previews. And if you know how to do that, you might also be able to communicate with the environment and all those kind of things and stuff. But this is the detective part, so to say.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, there needs to be a way to do it, right? It's just like to find out which is the best way, or which gets you to the point that you're interested in.
Yeah.
Amazing. Antoine, we're usually I run this for an hour. We're already a little bit over, and I think people had a bunch of questions. We answered, I think, most of them. So we got some really good suggestions. So somebody said you should call it Pony Sim. So maybe that's your April Fool's for next year already.
I'll think about it. Some people think that I'm a rocket company, right? So I was thinking the other day, what if somebody working at a rocket company wants to buy licenses? Do I have to explain them, like, do you know this is about the Xcode simulator?
This is not what you think it is. How did you come up with the name?
I was thinking in the lines of adding superpowers to the simulator. To add rocket power to the simulator.
Okay.
That was kind of the
It's a really good name. I'll give you that. It's extremely it's unique. It's evocative, and the only thing, and I think I mentioned this a while ago. I have one menu bar app which is called, I think it's just called Rocket. And it allows you to pick emojis, and it literally has the same icon.
That is annoying. Maybe I should offer another secondary icon. If he is still listening, he might be designing it right now for me, so I can build that tomorrow. But
there you go.
Yeah, but the funny thing is the name, right? Like, you now say it's a really great name, but it's also, if you build something, it all starts with a name that doesn't say anything. Okay, buy it. But the name grows, right? Like you recognize RocketSim now. It's really a brand now. But when it started, RocketSim was just nobody knew what it was, right? So
Yeah.
I'm glad you're saying it right now. I think it's a great name too. But yeah, it grew over years.
Yeah. Awesome. Antoine, thanks so much for coming on. I had a lot of fun and I learned a lot. Amazing features, and it's very inspirational to see how you built this thing out of thin air, as a side project, and now it's a business. This is super inspiring, I think, for many of us, and yeah, I'm excited to see where it takes you and the team that's working on it, and maybe in a year when I'll invite you back, it'll be an entire company, and hopefully, fingers crossed, you'll not be Sherlocked.
I mean, they have to Sherlock 30 features, so hopefully not. But,
Yeah,
no,
absolutely.
let's hope they don't break the simulator tooling. But if they do, they will break a lot of teams' tooling. So I'm sure they
Oh
will.
yeah.
But yeah, WWDC is always a bit extra exciting for me,
Yeah.
both positive and negative. Yeah, so let's see. And I would love to come back in a year. This was super fun. Thanks a lot for inviting me over.
Yeah, no worries. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. And so I'll be on vacation for 2 weeks. So there will be no live stream for the next 2 weeks.
Who
And I'll
approved that?
announce. Say again?
Who approved that?
My wife.
Oh, that's how it goes.
So, but after that, we'll be back working on exciting new things. And if you've got any suggestions for whom else I should invite to the stream to chat about how they build an app or a tool, let me know.
Hit it. Then I can start
He's
pushing
out, so he
in his
can't
life.
say no.
Yeah,
It's already.
yeah. Too bad he left.
It's agreed. All right, Antoine, you stay on, and everybody else. Oh, is the dog around?
Oh yeah. Okay. Let's do that. That's fun.
Everybody loves a dog. So unfortunately, I don't have a dog.
All right. Here it is.
And not.
There you go.
I mean, it's amazing. This dog is he as tall as you are?
Yeah, he is. Just wait a second. I'll close the door. I don't want the kids to wake up here. Yeah, so I'm 2 meters tall, right? You can't see that now, but if he goes up, come on. See that? So he's like 1.5 meters or something like that.
That's amazing.
He's a big guy.
Yeah.
He's great. Yeah, he's my only colleague as an indie,
And the chickens.
And chickens, yeah, we have new ones, by the way. We have 5 little ones now.
Cute.
Yeah, the family's growing.
All right.
Great
Very
way
cool.
to end, Peter, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. All right, everybody. I'll see you soon. Antoine, you stay on. And guys,